My name is Heather Levy, and I'm the Conservation Program Manager with Birds Georgia. Our mission is building places where people and birds thrive, and we simply cannot do that without the efforts of our private landowners here in our state. Nationally, 60% of land is owned privately, and in Georgia, that number jumps up to 93%, making private landowners critical stakeholders in the future of Georgia's conservation. This is really important because Georgia is one of the most biodiverse states in the nation, harboring many species of conservation concern from the coastline up to the mountains. The stewardship efforts of our private landowners play a really important role into the future of Georgia's natural resources and wildlife populations. We want to celebrate our landowners and hear from them on advice they've received through conservation technical assistance and even cost share opportunities to help offset the finances to make their properties better places for wildlife than when they originally got them.
I bought this property and I just started making it more usable for the animals. The previous owner had overhunted and there was virtually very little wildlife on the property. I didn't really have any resources. I just did what was common sense. I started doing some research on the internet and I stumbled across BQI, the DNR, and got in touch with Jesse. And he has been the answer to everything.
The Bobwhite Quail Initiative and the Private Lands Division focuses mostly on working with private landowners to help them manage their properties for wildlife. A lot of the habitats that we work with on landowners' properties are either heavily disturbed through past land use histories, whether it's a cropping history, a grazing history, or an industrial forest management history. There are ways that we can go towards restoring those natural communities that these species have evolved alongside to benefit them to the greatest degree possible. The largest percentage of property or of acreage within any state is generally owned by private landowners. So the vast majority of management and conservation that can be done is on private lands while working with private landowners.
As it is with all the properties I've owned in my lifetime, is to leave it better than how I got it. I started burning 10 years ago when I bought the property, and then I planted some pines and plant trees that we'll never see mature. But we're doing it for the next generation and the generation after that. And the animals, they're enjoying the trees we plant because they're nut trees, and the birds like more different variety of trees on the property, so they feel safer, I think.
It took an entire growing season's worth of chemical prep to try to get as much of the noxious weeds out of it as possible because of the past disturbance history just being old ag field. And then you planted it this spring.
Yes.
With a mix of native warm season grasses with the idea that you could then use the plateau to establish the warm season grasses and add whatever forbs and wildflowers you wanted to afterwards.
Exactly.
And keep as much options for chemical control and ease of establishment as possible.
I've worked with many landowners who've done some thinning, done some burning, done some brush management, hardwood control in the mid-story, and they give me a call and send me photos of, I never knew all of these wildflowers were in this stand. I can't believe how much stuff is responding in there. That sort of thing, those are always those are the things that really pump you up.
We wanted to manage for wildlife on this land. We wanted to move out of the country, and that was really our main goal, was to be in a place with a lot of diversity of habitat and diversity of types of animals. We're interested in not only birds, but also insects, because we know that both birds and insects are in decline, so that was part of our motivation. And we're interested in the mammals as well. We put up game cameras, and it's just amazing what all is here.
It's a little sanctuary for us. We bought this a year and a half ago and moved in and have been embellishing our predecessors' improvements to the property. We're trying to take down some of those improvements to make them a little more natural. So it's about a 99-acre property that it's kind of our dream place. The home is all set up. We don't have to do anything. We can go play out in the woods as much as we want.
Hey, my name's Gabe Anderly. I'm the Habitat Program Manager at Birds, Georgia, and I lead our efforts to combat habitat loss and habitat degradation, two of the leading causes of bird decline across the world. All right, so here we have some purple top grass. This is one of the most common species that we see in areas where maybe there's been disturbance in the past, but this is a good native species of grass that we like to see. It's encouraging, along with the broom sedge that's growing back here, which is another native grass that is really early successional. And one of the first steps that landowners can take to start to understand what kind of space they're working with is just letting areas grow up and seeing what plants are already there. So seeing that there's this purple top and this broom sedge back here tells us that there's already some things moving in that are native that we can work with to help turn this area back into something that is native and beneficial to birds.
We have needed to have a lot of help with learning about management. Now, my husband is a forester, so he knows a lot about managing the forest. He knows a lot about treating invasive exotics. So we've done that, and then my husband was chomping at the bit to do a burn because he loves prescribed fires.
Just after we moved in, we burned 90% of the property without burning the house down. If we reintroduce fire, we can push those species back. We can restore our landscape to something that was a little more, well, definitely more natural.
Well, earlier this spring, we put a prescribed fire on this field. It was very exciting. We got 12-foot flame heights. We had an ignition crew, 2 ignition crews, and a suppression crew following them. Laura was helping them put it out. And so we burned this field off to encourage these native lespedezas and native broom sages and other native forbs and grasses that might be here. And so we're trying to set it up for a future. We're doing our research now to figure out how do we do that? And there's all kinds of guidance out there. NRCS, Georgia DNR, those folks have done this, they know about it. And it's important for wildlife to have these wild species.
We're lucky to have a lot of land. This is like a lifelong dream that we have, but we lived for 32 years on a half an acre, and we did a lot with that. We planted a lot of native plants, and we just started replacing our non-natives with natives, and we got so many different butterflies. And I just think you don't have to have a lot of land to do land management. You can do it on a very small space.
The property here is Gaskins Forest Education Centre. This is just a small part of a bigger property, which is the Murray Gaskins Marital Trust. As I've developed this educational facility, I'm doing this in response to what I've seen with other landowners and the general public. What I find is that there is huge support and appreciation of forests as natural habitats. Unfortunately, that also goes along with a dislike for anybody messing with those forests. And so there is a real distrust of forest management, and there is an underappreciation of the importance of cutting trees, thinning and burning, which are the very things we need to be doing to improve wildlife habitat. It's amazing how much natural regeneration you get, and so just burning automatically brings a diverse understory species that support both your pollinators and also your other forms of wildlife. So this is a site where you can see two different timing of prescribed burn. The one on this side was burned a month ago at a public event for the community folks where they did a demonstration burn. So that was burned only a month ago, and you can see how quickly the vegetation is regrown. It doesn't stay black and ugly for very long in the growing season. The one on this side, the stand on this side, wasn't burned. So the last time it was burned was a year ago, and we would call that a 1-year rough. You can see the shrubs haven't been killed, but they get, the tops of them get burned off and they grow back from the roots. When I got started, the most important thing for me was meeting people. Going to landowner field days and conferences and just talking to people and understanding the big picture of why is it important and how do we think about managing our land. Once you know what you want to do, then it's easy enough for you to find out how to do it. And so the people I've worked with, DNR, NRCS, the Longleaf Alliance were some of the really important ones. And with all of these people, the collaborations have been incredibly important, and I've continued to work with them in many different ways.
I've worked with multiple landowners over multiple properties in various places of the state with varying results. A lot of our landowners do have multiple objectives and want to kind of blend both wildlife habitat and could be farm production or forestry production, depending on the individual objectives and goals and what they really want to accomplish. There are multiple things that you can do to still provide habitat on some of these different landscapes while still meeting your productivity objectives. NRCS provides technical assistance to private landowners. What this involves is meeting with the landowner, looking at their operations, and discussing their goals and objectives with them, and the funding opportunities there may be available so that these lands can be managed and maintained in a way that they will ensure their sustainability and productivity for future generations.
Whether you have 5 acres or 5,000 acres, there are lots of things that you can do to help keep Georgia a wild, natural, and biodiverse state.